You know that like TikTok sound that's based off of a song that goes, tell a friend to tell a friend, she's back. That's how I feel right now. So hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here, it's been a while you guys since I've been on booktube. I've done a few sprints here and there. I did some on my channel and I also did some on other people's channels, but I'm officially back to making videos. I took a little hiatus in March. Also, I'm very sorry if my throat sounds scratchy or I sound really congested. I have been sick the past week, but I've been waiting to get this video out and now's the time to do it. So that's what we're doing today. So today I decided I was going to go over the second quarter releases that I am most excited for. And so these are releases that are going to be coming out in April, May, and June. And I have a list of them and I will make sure to put up a picture of what the cover looks like and the dates of when they do come out, just so you guys are aware. And if you want, you can take notes during these videos or write these down, add them to your Goodreads, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about what each book is about as well. But let's just go ahead and get right into this video. So obviously the first month in this quarter of the year is April, and there is a ton coming out in April that I am so excited for. I have quite a bit in April, not as much in May, but still quite a bit, and not as much in June. So we're gonna see how long this video turns out to be, but we could be here for a while. So I'm gonna try to go in order of when these books do come out so I can keep kind of on track and just go through the month of April. So the first one that we're starting out with is The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. This one comes out on April 4th. I am actually very excited for this one. I get to go to a author event for Sally Hepworth on the 6th. So I will be getting this book and I will be getting it signed by her. I have read 2 books by her and I have one that I have yet to read, but I'm hoping that I get to it soon. But I at first struggled with this author because she does write, in my opinions, very suspenseful drama fiction novels, but they get categorized as thrillers. So if you're expecting a thriller with Sally Hepworth, I wouldn't go in thinking you're actually going to get a thriller. But from what I've heard from the people who have gotten ARCs and already read The Soulmate, they have said this is the most thrilling type of book that she's written so far. So this one is focusing on a marriage between 2 people named Gabe and Pippa, and they live in their dream home, which is on like this coastal town, and their house is literally like on the side of a cliff overlooking water. This has become a very big spot where people decide to end their lives just by jumping off of this cliff. And so Gabe and Pippa have kind of taken it into themselves to help the people who are, you know, looking to end their lives. And so Gabe has talked tons of people off of the literal edge and has helped them get back on their feet. Well, one day this girl ends up actually dying, and there's a lot of secrets that start floating around, and Pippa doesn't know whether or not Gabe pushed her, if she jumped by herself, if Gabe just seriously could not like help her back, stuff like that. There's just very big secrets that are being held at this house now, and it's, you know, do you really know your soulmate, or is your soulmate really the person that you think you know? I feel like this is going to make me feel a lot weird about marriage, but I feel like it'll be a good read. And like I said, people have said it's really thrilling. I personally love books that take place near water, so I think that will be an even bigger like thrill for me. So I'm really looking forward to this one. The next book that I'm excited for is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is the first in a new series by her, and it is also coming out on April 4th. I am very excited about this one. I have yet to read a Rebecca Ross book. I do have A River Enchanting, I think, somewhere. I don't even know. I think I have that one. So I need to read that one really bad because I've heard so many good things about it. But I'm very excited about Divine Rivals because all of my friends on Goodreads who have read it already have given it 4 or 5 stars. So I have a feeling I'm really going to like it. So this book is following a girl, but there are gods in this book as well, so it kind of may have like a mythology type take on it, which I'm very excited about. But we're following Iris, who is 18 years old, and her mother has suffered with addiction, and her brother has been in the army or he's been in war, I just know that much, and he's been missing. And so she decides to get this promotion to help her family, where she basically writes for this paper. And so she decides at one point to send her brother messages, written letters, to try and get to him, and she always slides them under a specific spot. But her rival ends up finding these letters, and he is her rival at work, so he also writes for the same paper that she does. So her rival, whose name is Roman, ends up writing back to her, and they end up starting like a back and forth chainmail type thing where they're just writing letters back and forth, and they're making a connection with each other that's very magical and different. And you know, the war is still going on between the gods and the humans, and it sounds so good. This book is being compared to Shadow and Bone meets Lore, and that's all you have to say to hook me in, to be honest. Another one I'm excited for that comes out on April 4th is The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. So this is taking place after World War I in England, and we're following Ivy, who becomes as like the heir to this library. She inherits this library, and she is not prepared at all. I think she's 23, and so she's very young and has things like on her mind, I'm sure. And she becomes the lady of this big moor in Yorkshire once she signs like all the paperwork and all that stuff, and she's just kind of handed this land. Ivy has lost her brother during the war, and she just kind of doesn't know what to do with herself, and so she moves to this manor once she inherits it, and she ends up finding that there is this mysterious library hidden in the walls, or hidden in this manor, and all the servants and everybody around her are very suspicious and just kind of reserved and keep to themselves. So she is trying to get a read on these people, but it's very hard for her too. And she finds this library, and the staff are all warning her, and they're telling her, leave it alone, you know, that there's something sinister lying within these shelves. And Ivy just obviously doesn't listen as most main characters do. And so Ivy is determined to figure out what the sinister presence is and just kind of shut it down and make sure that she doesn't lose herself or lose like her future within these walls. And I am not going to go into what this book's about because this one is the 4th in a series, but it is For You and Only You by Caroline Kepnes. This also comes out on April 4th. I have yet to read the 3rd book in this series, which is titled You Love Me, and I really want to. I really enjoyed the 3rd season of You, but I know that it's probably way different than the book. They've kind of taken a toll out of like not following the books at all, I think now, but I again am not 100% sure because I haven't read the 3rd one, but I do want to make it a priority to. I also want to thank NetGalley because I was able to get an arc of For You and Only You, and I'm hoping that I get to it before the end of the month is up so that I can read it before it comes out, but that means I also have to read the 3rd one, so we're going to be working hard here. The next one I'm excited for comes out on April 11th, and it is How to Kill Men and Get Away with It by Katie Brent. I personally have never heard of this author. This, I think, is her first book. So she's already pulling me in with the cover, with the synopsis. So let me tell you what this book is about. There's not really much out about this book, just that there's this woman who gets the sense that this man is following her, and she ends up murdering him. And apparently she likes it. So I think she's just going to start killing men. We may have a female Joe Goldberg on our hands. I'm not really sure. She's probably not a stalker, but she's probably very into the killing part. And so I don't really know what to get into with this book. I just know that it looks good. It sounds like dark and twisty, but also very funny. And so I'm hoping that's what I get out of it. People said that if you really like the show Killing Eve, or if you like the show How to Get Away with Murder, that you'll really like this book. So we will see. The next book, I can't even describe how excited I am for this book, but it also comes out on April 11th, and it is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Y'all, Abby Jimenez has literally become a new auto-buy author for me. I rank her up there with Emily Henry books because I absolutely adore Emily Henry books. I also adore like Catherine Walsh and Courtney Walsh books, so they kind of have more in-depth plots to their romance books, which I personally love, and there's always more going on in the story than just the romance, and I love that. I read Part of Your World last year, I think, or maybe this year. I can't even remember. I think it was last year. I'm pretty sure it was last year that I read Part of Your World, and I adored it. I absolutely loved it. and I really want to get to the friend zone soon, so I may end up reading that in April before yours truly comes out, or maybe not before, but at least near in April. I'm gonna get through the friend zone so that I can read yours truly, because this one sounds right up my alley. So we're following Brianna, who was a doctor, and she is going through a divorce, and her brother is also in the hospital, or at least on a transplant list, because he needs a new kidney, but he's also running out of time. Brianna's also wanting to go for this promotion at work, but she is pretty sure they're going to give it to this male doctor who literally gets on her nerves 24/7. So I really like that this one's like taking place in a hospital. So I feel like it's going to be an even better like version of Grey's Anatomy. And yes, I said even better. So we are following also Jacob, who is this doctor that she hates and is getting this promotion, or probably going to get this promotion. And she hates him. She just can't stand him. Basically what happens is he sends her a letter, and she finds out that he's not as bad as he seems. He's not like this hateful, like awful man. He's very funny and very sweet and charming, and so they start exchanging letters back and forth. They start eating lunch together and just having like a good time, becoming friends. And then he makes the ultimate sacrifice for her and ends up gifting her brother a kidney. And how do you hate a man who gifts a brother a kidney? Which, that is not a spoiler, that is in the synopsis. So, you know, he's like, here, I'm gonna give your brother a kidney. How is she gonna say no to that? Her brother literally needs it so bad. I'm really excited for this book. It is The Matchmaker by Catherine Walsh. It comes out on April 18th. Last year I read Catherine Walsh's holiday romance book, which is literally called Holiday Romance, and it took place in a airport for the most part, but it was a lot of like friends to lovers. Well, it started out with like enemies to friends, friends to lovers, so it was really cute. There was a lot going on. Again, I compare her to Emily Henry with her plot of things going on other than just the romance, and I really enjoyed it. Love the characters, love the setting, so I'm very excited about this one. And I also again want to say thank you to NetGalley for approving me for an ARC for this one, and I cannot wait to read it. It's just going to be so good, I already know. So we're following Katie, and Katie lives in this very small Irish town, and she is perfectly content there. Her parents met there, they fell in love there, they grew up, you know, they grew, and she was there, and she grew up there, and she just loves her town. And it's a very small town, again, in Ireland, and she is just happy and content with her life, as happy as can be. But of course, a male main character has come in and ruined it for her. Just kidding. So then Callum turns up, and he is this developer who is going to basically knock down so many things in this town and turn it into hotel rooms and a golf course and all of these things that are just going to ruin the small town vibe that Katie has been in her whole life. And Katie has had enough of that. He's trying to tear down this pub where her parents met and fell in love, and she's like, no, you're not doing that, because that's the only thing left she has of her parents. And they met at like this matchmaking festival there, and then you have to like throw a coin, I think, in a well or a fountain, I don't know. But anyway, Katie's not having that, and so she stands up to Callum. So Katie decides she's going to uncover this well or fountain that used to be where the matchmaking festival was, and she's going to bring the matchmaking festival back into town and make the town lively again, and just prove that they don't need these hotels or golf courses or anything big city life to bring life into this town. And of course, you know, there's going to be some love on the way. Some love. I haven't heard much talk about this book, but I'm personally very excited for it, and it is called The Cherished by Patricia Ward. It is coming out on April 18th as well. This author has not written anything since 2016, or hasn't published any books since 2016, and this one is going to be like a young adult fiction work, and I think it's going to remind me a lot of like Rory Power books. which I personally love. I know that not everybody loves them, but I love the way that she writes and the stories and characters that she writes. So I'm excited for this one. It sounds really good. So we're following Jo, and this is taking place during midsummer, and Jo is inheriting this house from her grandmother, and it is creepy, and it is weird, and it's dark, and she's also handed this list of demands that just are weird. Like, no, they're just weird. And so Jo's taking over this house, and she meets the tenants of this house, and they are weirder. They are dark, they are weird, they're off, and Jo's just like, what the heck's going on? So there's a lot of creepy, dark, thrilling horror type things going on here that Jo's having to figure out. So Jo, you know, remembers that her father used to have these visions of these dark things, and according to her grandma's letter that she leaves her, Jo belongs in this house. And so she's gonna try and figure out what the heck's going on, if her dad was actually seeing things, like if his visions were real, just all these things that are happening. And it's supposed to be really creepy. It kind of reminds me of Wilder Girls, and it kind of also reminds me of just basic horror movies that I've seen before, where things are just creepy in the house and you're kind of, you know, trying not to get spooked, or figuring out what's real versus what's not real. So reality versus imagination. So it sounds like it's going to be a very thrilling horror book to me. Another one that I'm excited for is The Lake House by Sarah Beth Durst, and this one comes out on April 25th. This one I'm kind of skeptic about because I think it is supposed to be like a survival horror story, and I'm not very into survival horror stories, but I did recently watch a movie that was one and I really enjoyed it, and so maybe my tastes are changing a little bit. So I'm gonna give this one a try for sure, just to see if it's now something that I enjoy. So Claire is the main character in this book, and she's very skeptic, very suspicious of things. She's one of those people who, you know, she's like me. Like, you would turn on the light switch at the end of the hallway, sprint to the other side, turn it off, and rush in your room. She's just always been very careful of her surroundings and just kind of paranoid. So she's trying to change. So she goes to this summer camp, but when she turns up at the summer camp, all she sees are these two other girls, and in this camp that is literally nothing. It looks like it's been burnt to the ground. There are no survivors, and she and these two girls are left to figure out what's going on. And then they end up finding a dead body, and things start happening that, you again, are dark and sinister and just cannot be explained to the naked eye. And so it's left up to these girls to figure out what happened at this camp, what's following them, what's trying to hurt them, and all of this stuff. It just sounds so good, and the cover of it is just freaking gorgeous. So I'm very excited. And the last book that I'm excited for that comes out on April 25th as well is Happy Place by none other than Emily Henry. Love this lady. She is amazing. Absolutely love her books. Like, well, out of the 3 that I've read so far, I haven't rated anything lower than a 5. So I have high expectations for her, you know. So we're following this couple, Harriet and Wyn. W-Y-N. I always say Wren, and it's Wyn. So Harriet and Wyn have been, I think, college sweethearts. So they have been together for a long time, and everybody always described them, and even they describe themselves as like being the missing half of each other and just kind of fitting together. But then, like 6 months ago, they broke up, and they haven't talked about it. They're not telling anybody. They just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about why or anything like that. And so they decide they're going to pretend to keep dating. I'm very skeptical about fake dating tropes because I personally just do not like them. I don't know, they're just not realistic to me. And I think Emily Henry, the way she's doing it in this book, she's setting it up very well to where I might enjoy it. So I'm hoping that's the case. But anyway, they always go on vacation with their friends. And so they decide to pretend to keep dating and go on this vacation with their best friends in Maine. And that means they're going to end up sharing a room. So we already know there's probably like a 1-bedroom or 1-bed trope, which is elite. She pulled that off in People We Meet on Vacation, and I loved it. So I'm excited for another scene, or that's not how I meant for that to come out. I'm very excited for her to pull that off again. So it's very hard, obviously, for Wyn and Harriet because they do still feel attraction toward each other, and they do still love each other. They've been together for a while, but breaking up, this is the first time they're coming back together, kind of. And it's just, they are struggling. They're trying to appear perfect and like this still like in love couple, but it's proven to be hard when they still want each other and they miss each other. And so it's gonna, I feel like this one's gonna be hard to read. It's gonna hit probably like people who have broken up with people, or people who have ended relationships and things like that. I feel like it's gonna be hard hitting, but Emily Henry always does it so well, so I'm excited to see what she does. Okay, we're moving on to May and what I'm excited to read then. I'm not a huge romance reader. Like, I like romance, I really do, but I have a lot of romance recs on here, or a lot of romance books coming out that I'm excited for. Who am I? So the first one I'm excited for comes out on May 2nd, and it is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I recently, well, I didn't recently, last summer I read Every Summer After, and I really liked it. I did give it 4 stars. At first I gave it 5 stars, but when I thought about it some more, there was a trope that I don't like in that book, so I did bump it down a star, just because I hate that trope. I hate it so much. And so I bumped it down a star, but I still really liked it. So if you haven't read Every Summer After, you kind of do a flash. It kind of takes place in 2 different timelines, kind of. You're following the same people, but you like there's a bunch of flashbacks about their past and then where they are now. And so we start out this book with Fern, who met this artist named Will, and they only spent like 24 hours together, and they went on this like really big grand adventure together, and that's all she could think about, and just like knowing that that's what she wants out of life. So that's what is in Fern's mind right now. And so I think we're gonna go back and forth getting like the past of how they, you know, spent these 24 hours together, and then where they are now, what they're thinking about, how it's affecting them, and different things like that. So they spent these 24 hours together, and they knew it was wrong timing, but they knew that they were like, they had a deep connection. And so they made this like deal to meet a year after this happened. And so Fern shows up, and then Will didn't, and that has to be heartbreaking. So Fern is now 32, and her life is just not like she thought it was going to be. She ends up moving back to this small town where she used to live, or where she grew up, and she's running her mom's like lakeside resort. Her ex-boyfriend is her manager, and it just feels like her life is going nowhere, and Fern is just unhappy, obviously. So then Will ends up showing up 9 years later, when they were supposed to meet from before, and he's in this suit, and he's very, you know, businesslike, and he's offering to help, and he says he knows exactly what they need, but Fern doesn't trust him. I mean, who would, after everything that he's done? I wouldn't trust him, so I understand it. So yeah, that's pretty much where Fern's at, but she's also, you know, she can't help that she loves him, or that she feels things for him. We already know where this is going. The next one comes out on May 9th, and it is Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. I'm very excited about this one. I read Ariadne by her last year. Absolutely loved it. Gave it 5 stars. I've yet to read Electra by her, but I am planning on reading that very soon, and I'm just excited for this next one to come out. It's also in this really gorgeous blue, which blue is my favorite color, and I'm very excited for it to just be on my shelf so I can look at it. So this one is Greek mythology, and you're following the myth of Atalanta, and she was basically born to parents who wanted a boy and ended up with a girl, and they basically leave her on the side of a mountain, and they just don't care about her. So she grows up with these bears, so it just kind of feels like a Jungle Book type thing as well, but she grows up with this mom bear, and the goddess Artemis is looking out for her. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. I personally do not know the story of Atalanta, but I'm very excited to see Jennifer Saint's take on it once I figure out what it is, you know? I don't want to give too much away about that one, because mythology can give stuff away. So if you really are interested in what it could be about, I would definitely look up the myth of Atalanta on Google, and you'll find it you'll find it very easily. Also on April 9th, a new series by Claire Legrand, or the first book in a new series by Claire Legrand, is going to come out, and it is called A Crown of Ivy and Glass. and it looks so good. So we're following Gemma Ashbourne, who is part of the Ashbourne family, and if you look at them from the outside, it seems like they're just really freaking rich, blessed people. You know, her family has been anointed by the gods. They are, you know, very big in their community, in their world. They're I would consider them like kings, queens, and princes and princesses. But underneath that all, Gemma is very sad. Her life is not as together as people think it is. Her mom ended up abandoning her family. Her sister was taken by this thing called the Middle Mist, which I don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure I will find out in the book. And she is taken for her magic, and her magic is going to guard this deeper magic, I think, that they want to like keep out of other people's hands. And her other sister and father are in a feud with this other family, and so they basically act like she doesn't exist. And she's also the only one in her family who contains no magical abilities, and I'm sure she feels pretty lonely in that family, because I imagine that I would as well. Meets this guy named Talon, and Talon's family was basically possessed by this demon or this demonic spirit, and they ended up like all dying, and he is there to like avenge their honor. And so he and Gemma basically make this proposal where Gemma's going to help him get into the high society as long as he defeats the Basques. And the Basques are the family that her father and sister are feuding with. And apparently between this family feud, there's this demon who is in the middle of it all. So basically what they have to do is kill this demon and the feud will be over. So there's a lot going on in this book, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of magical elements at play. And I've heard Claire Legrand really writes very well with her fantasy worlds, so I'm excited to see finally what it's like. Another one that I'm very excited for comes out on the 23rd, and it is Lore Olympus Volume 4 by Rachel Smythe, I think is how you say her name. I think I've been saying it Smith, but I think it's Smythe. I'm not 100% sure. If you know, let me know down in the comments. But I'm not going to go into what it is. It's obviously a Hades and Persephone Greek mythology retelling story that is written in graphic novel form. I have read the first 2 volumes. I still need to read the 3rd volume and make sure I read that in time for the 4th one. I really adore this series. I love the artwork and the color palette in it. It's just really fun and really gorgeous. And if you give me Greek mythology in a graphic novel form, you can bet your bottom I'm going to read it. So the next one comes out on May 30th, and it is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I have not read anything by Meg Schaefer. I'm pretty sure this is her debut. She is actually a film student in Missouri. So I've heard people though say that her writing, who have read this book, that her writing was very like V.E. Schwab in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So I'm excited to see if that's the case, because The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is probably my favorite book of all time. So I'm just saying. So there's this author who wrote amazing and lots of children's books, and he was really well known, and all of a sudden he mysteriously quit writing. Well, then he comes up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he comes up with this competition and a brand new book. So we're following Lucy, who her parents really neglected her and treated her terribly, and so she really found her life in books. And she always loved the children's book by Jack, I forget his last name, Masterson, who is this famous author that went disappearing and came back. And so now Lucy is 26, and she is a teacher's aide, and she's just trying to instill that love of reading that she had in other kids, so that they can find, you know, something to enjoy. And she that's how she meets 7-year-old Christopher, who his parents were tragically killed or tragically died, and he is left an orphan. And she wants to instill that love of reading so that he can find solace in books like she did. So Lucy wants to adopt Christopher and wants to make a family with him. Like, she wants... That sounded terrible. Rewind. So Lucy wants to start a family and, you know, take in Christopher as a son and just show him what love really is, and she can't do that with the funds that it takes and all of that stuff. So she finds out about this competition that Jack is hosting at his house, and you will win this novel and like everything that your heart desires. And so Lucy is one of the 4 people entered in this competition, and that is when she meets Hugo. So Hugo is the illustrator of these books, and these of the books of Jack Masterson, which is the Clock Island series, and this competition is based on the Clock Island books. And she meets him, and he's very grumpy and very, you know, I think probably passionate about winning, but she also meets these like crazy book collectors who will stop at nothing to get this book, you know. And so apparently Jack says he's gonna do something huge at the end, and it's gonna be wild. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys, it sounds like Caraval. Sounds like higher stakes Caraval. So if you like Caraval and you like books, like Broken Families, stuff like that, found family, I think you're gonna love this book. Okay, and now we're finally moving into the last month of these releases for this quarter, and that is the month of June. I don't have a ton in June that is coming out, but the ones that are coming out, I'm super, super excited for. The first one that I'm very excited for is Psyche and Eros. That is written by Luna McNamara, and it comes out on June 13th. And let me just say that this one is based off mythology. It is Greek mythology, but I just want to read this line to you guys. It says, "What happens when a god of love falls in love?" This synopsis is kind of short, and to better explain this to you, I'm just going to read it so that you guys can totally understand what it means, because I know Greek mythology seems like it can be very, very hard to understand, but it's really not. You don't have to know all the characters in the book to understand what they come for, like what they represent or anything like that. And if you never, like if you read a book and you don't know what that character, like who they represent, or if you don't know who Aphrodite is, you can definitely look up on Google who is Aphrodite, and it's automatically going to tell you that she's the goddess of love in Greek mythology. So it's very easy to understand. You just may have to keep like a character list or something like that on the side just so you don't get confused. This one says, a prophecy claims that Psyche, who is a princess, will conquer a monster feared by the gods. Beloved by her family but at odds with her society's expectations for women, Psyche trains to become a hero, mastering blade and bow. When Psyche angers Aphrodite, the love goddess enlists Eros, god of desire, to help deliver a cruel curse. Eros is the last born of the eldest gods, dry-witted and jaded, unsure of his place in the cosmos. The last thing he wants is to become involved in the chaos of the mortal world, but when he pricks himself with the arrow intended for Psyche, Eros is doomed to yearn for a woman who will be torn from him the moment their eyes meet. A joyous and subversive tale of gods, monsters, and the human heart and soul, Psyche and Eros dazzles the senses while exploring notions of trust, sacrifice, and what it truly means to be a hero. With unforgettably vivid characters, spellbinding prose, and delicious tension, Luna McNamara has crafted a shimmering and propulsive debut novel about a love so strong it defies the will of Olympus. Enough said, we're moving on, because we already all know we're all sold on that book now. Another one that comes out on June 13th is The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley. This book is written by Courtney Walsh. I love Courtney Walsh. I have read her Cross Country Christmas book and My Phony Valentine, and I'm in love with both of them. I think I gave them both 5 stars, or at least 4 stars for Christmas. I think I gave them both 5, to be honest. But this one also seems very different from her first 2. Her first 2 are mainly romance books with a little bit more in depth of things going on. Again, I think I mentioned like Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez. People like that who have a little bit more plot to their romance books. So Isadora is a researcher for a college or university, whichever one, and she is very to herself. I feel like she's very, like, if you think you're an introvert, Isadora is an introvert. And so she keeps to herself. She follows what she's supposed to do. She follows the rules, and she just doesn't think that she's ever going to be truly happy in life. Like, she's just content with where she is and what she does, and she just does things. You know, her life is very stagnant, I would say. But then on her 30th birthday, this woman who's very stagnant does something on a whim, and she picks up this magazine that is titled 31 Ways to Be Happy, or 31 Ways to for happiness or something like that. So Isadora starts following these 31 things that are supposed to make you happy because she wants to prove this magazine and everybody who's like told her to be happy in her life wrong. But then she ends up meeting this charming professor. So I don't blame you, Isadora, for being like, oop, I was wrong. I was wrong. So I'm very excited for this. I think it's going to be so good and I cannot wait to read it. And we're coming to the last book on this list. There are 2 other books that I'm going to mention, like The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, which I think I'm very excited for. I love the premise of this book, but there are books of hers that I want to read before I get into that one, so I don't know when I'll actually pick it up. And then also 0 Days by Ruth Ware, I am very excited for as well. I think it sounds very interesting, but there are so many Ruth Ware books that I want to get to that I probably will not get to that one next year or this coming year, so I'm mentioning those, but I'm not gonna be like telling you what they're about just because I probably won't be getting to them anytime soon. So the last book I'm going to talk about is coming out on June 20th, and it is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This may be the one I'm like most anticipating because I have gotten into some Riley Sager, you guys. I read Home Before Dark last year and it was my 3rd favorite book of the year. I read Lock Every Door recently. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars, but I did enjoy it for the most part. And then I read The Last Time I Lied, which I loved, and gave it 5 stars. And this one looks gothic and creepy and right up my alley. And Riley Sager can do no wrong in my eyes. No matter what I rate his books, he will always be an auto-buy author for me. So this one is supposed to be about this woman who goes to work for this lady at this mansion, who has been accused of a Lizzie Borden type of murder. Which, if you don't know, Lizzie Borden is a female who ended up murdering her parents one day, and it seemed like it was out of the blue. So yeah, I personally would not want to be working with somebody who has murdered people, but that's just me. So yeah, it sounds creepy, starting off that way. So in 1929 is when the girl, her name is Lenora, she killed her sister and her mom and her dad, and she has stayed in the mansion that is on a side of a cliff. Apparently people are writing cliffside novels this year, or putting out cliffside novels this year, but she has not spoken about it. The police had no evidence that she did it. The only evidence that they ever had was that Lenora denied ever doing it, and that's all they've ever had, and so it's never been solved, and Lenora has never left the mansion. So we flash forward to 1983. So Kit is coming into work with Lenora because Lenora's old nursemaid or aide ran away. She just ran. I would be running too, so I don't blame her. But Lenora has suffered a lot of strokes and she is not able to talk or communicate vocally, and she's confined to a wheelchair. So the only way she's able to communicate with Kit, who is her new aide, is by typing things out on a typewriter. That's freaking scary. Does that not scare people? Like, if you're Kit, why do you like, how do you get that job? How do you apply for that job? What would the job application look like, you know? Like, one woman accused of murdering her family needs healthcare aid. Last one ran screaming. Apply now. Who's gonna do that? Apparently Kit. Whatever. Moving on. So then Lenora communicates with Kit through the typewriter, saying that it was not her who committed these murders. And Kit is like, she's going through these details, explaining what happened to Kit, and Kit doesn't know whether to believe her or not. So she could either believe what Lenora is saying about these murders, that she didn't commit them, she didn't know anything about them, or she like knows about them and can't explain what happened, or something like Lenora is dark and Lenora did kill these people, did kill her family, and she's just even more like sinister than Kit thought. Those are the books that I'm most excited for this quarter. There are so many coming out, especially in April, and I just cannot wait to get into them. I think they're all going to be so good. I feel like this is going to be a good year for releases and for reading, and I'm just excited to continue it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys were able to find some book recommendations or find books that you didn't know were coming out that you're going to now add to your list to buy. You're welcome. And I also just want to say thank you so much for all the understanding and the, you know, just the encouragement I've gotten for taking a break from YouTube for the past month to just kind of get my life together, basically. It's been very, very sweet, and I just adore you all, and I will see you guys in my next video.